technology. I think that's really when the internet sort of kind of came about and really flourished.
The most fun decade of my life, but I don't know if you want something more than just how it affected me.
Well, you were in your 30s, right?
Yeah, but I kind of got off to a late start.
Why? What does that mean?
I mean, I got married in the 90s. I had my first kid in the 90s. But I was doing a lot of like going to clubs to seeing bands and stuff in the 90s, and my career was sort of getting on track at that time. Again, I was kind of a late bloomer.
Or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was terrible, right? Tanya Harding kind of orchestrated this event where I think it was her boyfriend, right? That tried to break Nancy Kerrigan's legs. It was pretty horrific.
And so, it's interesting to see somebody make it in that world because it's so, foofy and, whatever. And neither one of those girls seemed like they necessarily fit. But Nancy was a good girl and fit a little bit more than Tanya did. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, she totally did.
So I went to school. I went to the Computer Learning Center in 1995, I think it was. I think I graduated in '96. So it was about that time. And back in that time, everything was dial-up. There was no cable modem access, things like that. It was all dial-up. So you had a modem that connected to a phone line, and it, would ring, and the provider, whoever that was, and it was so slow, but it was fantastic, right? It was like this thing that just opened up the world to you in your eyes. So. Yeah.
Did you have a computer in your house, or?
I did. I bought a computer. It was an IBM, and IBM, back in the day was, everybody thought of, when you thought of computers, you thought of IBM. So I bought an IBM, and I paid. I bought it at Lechmere Sales, which, talking about the 90s, was a store that was around back in the 80s and 90s. They sold a lot of technology and hardware and things like that. And I think I paid $2,400 for it, and it was so slow. So, I mean, even in today's money, that's just a lot of money to pay for a computer.
Yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say it was like cheap or something.
No, I paid $2,400 for it.
Wow, that's a lot.
And my smartphone here, my iPhone is 10 times faster than that what computer was. Yeah.
I was an eBay fiend. I was an early adopter of eBay. I bought like all of Sophia's and your baby clothes off of eBay. All those cute little matching outfits and stuff that you wore to all those pictures that we have in the house. Yeah. Thanks to eBay. So I actually really, I wasn't like one of those people who was on the precursor to the internet, the weird listservs and that kind of thing. That wasn't me. But, I think once, I would say, certainly by 97, I was using it all the time. There was this one site called iVillage and Parents' Place, and that's where I met the people that I was in a play group with when I was pregnant with Sophia. That I'm still in contact with a lot of those people. I joined the play group for when I was pregnant with you, the 2001 one. I'm still in touch with a lot of those people. And in fact, one of the people that's from the 98 play group is in a Facebook group with me for college. So it definitely, it was one of those things where it didn't feel necessary. It felt a little embarrassing to say that you had these friends on the internet because it didn't that's not real. Yeah. But they were real, and we had conversations, and we shared things in our lives, and it was a community. So I was, I'm all about the internet.
I got it. It was a flip phone, but it was a big flip phone. It was a Motorola. I can't remember the model. It was gray. It had an antenna that pulled out. And what did I use it for? Just to make phone calls, right? It was so cool, that I could get a cell phone. I think I paid $40 or $50 a month, and I think they gave me the phone for free when I signed up for the plan. But there was only a limited amount of places that sold cell phones back in the day. So I had to drive to, I think it was a place on Montville Ave in Woburn to get the phone. A friend of mine told me, hey, this place sells cell phones. It was so cool, Now you can get rid of it, obviously.
Well, yeah. It just seemed like it was, it was basically about protecting our access to oil. I don't think, all things being equal, we would have cared about Kuwait. Otherwise. But yeah, when was that? Was that 92?
That was started in 90, and then
90.
The other storm happened in 91.
Okay.
Were you surprised when it first happened?
Not really. I mean, it didn't. I have to. It's kind of embarrassing to say, but I think, I don't. It didn't touch my life immediately. I didn't know anybody who was overseas, over there fighting. I didn't know families who were impacted. So I kind of just lived my life, Yeah.
Really
Your
excited
dad
about
actually
it?
shook his hand.
He did?
Yeah, when he was during the campaign, when he made a campaign stop in Boston. I think he was a volunteer on the staff or whatever, and I don't know. He got up there to he met him or shook his hand. I think at that point I wasn't a big Bill supporter.
I do remember hearing about it. I remember hearing that it cost, an enormous amount of money, and that it could see so far into the galaxy and so forth, and it was a huge thing. Yep.
Yeah. There was all this it's like a big deal because of that. The one of the mirrors and one of the lenses was flawed or whatever, and so they wasn't getting the pictures that they were hoping that it would. And I didn't actually realize that they fixed it, but they must have, because the stuff that was coming back, much later, was really pretty impressive. Well, just being really disappointed, but not being terribly surprised. He had a reputation as being kind of a womanizer. And then, they launched impeachment proceedings against him, and then I was kind of mad because I felt like he had done a lot of the good things that he had done, could be undone as a result of this, that they would be tarnished by this, and so it just seemed really stupid, and I was mad, and also just feeling like, even then, this is, again, it's hard to remember what you thought at the time versus, how we think about this stuff now through the Me Too lens, right?
Yeah.
But, I think I remember feeling like it was an abuse of power.
Yeah.
Impression.
Yeah, it was a huge thing, right? The president, cheated on his wife in the Oval Office with an intern, and then sort of denied the whole thing. And then I don't even know to this day if he fully admitted 100%, but I think I remember it being kind of like this half admitting type thing.
Mm-hmm.
remember watching the low-speed chase on TV. Just, really? What is going on here? I mean, that was a big deal. I don't remember watching a lot of the trial. I watched it on occasion. It went on. It seemed like it dragged on for months. My opinion was that I was certain that he had done it.
Yeah. So I remember the verdict coming down, right? When they found out that he was, they found him innocent.
Yeah.
I had just gotten off of a boat. I went on a 2 or 3 day tuna fishing trip, and I remember I was in Rhode Island. I remember specifically, and it was a big deal. But of course, I remember the car chase and all of that with the big white Ford Bronco. What was gun control like?
Yeah.
So I actually owned guns myself in the 90s. I belonged to a sportsman's club up in Andover where we used to go target shooting. And I know for myself, I had to go through gun safety course. I had to meet with the chief of police, and I had to get, I had to have the legal reason to actually carry the gun. So, I think it was, they certainly went through the whole process with me, but I can't speak to how it relates to today's process because I don't have guns any longer and I'm not into that, so.
Sort of culturally, you were starting to see more than just sort of white middle class sensibilities come into play. I think the 90s were really when rap started happening, so I think, maybe sort of that's the beginning of us understanding that we are a more diverse people than what had been sort of promoted before.
In like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. So I think that's a positive. The world was, the world was changing during that time. I think, even though I don't remember the specifics, it's like there was a lot of change happening in other parts of the world, and we needed to be paying attention to that because it was really reforming, relationships and alliances globally that I think we're still feeling today.
To remember about the 90s. So we're all connected, right? In this technologically advanced world with our mobile devices and the internet and things like that. And really, it's only been around for maybe in its current state such a short time. And just remember to sometimes disconnect a little bit and even go back to the 90s or the 80s and so forth, just back a little bit and just realize that, there was a life before you had your cell phone and email and instant messaging and all these different little applications that just keep everybody together. And of course, I'm guilty of it myself, but I remember back in the day when these things weren't around, and I appreciate that, and things were simpler. So just to try to enjoy simpler things in life, don't always stay connected. I guess that's my point.